Yeah, so does anybody have any questions to sort of get us going? Sweet. All right. So that's okay because I have a couple. Um, so these are some things that, I figure people might want to know about. So one question that we get are, are you guys doing street outreach right now? If not, then when will it start? And what will street outreach look like? And Spencer will answer these questions.
All right. So before, COVID, we would do actual street outreach. So we would go out, with different, groups around like the local community. So like, for example, some like churches that may be around or just, local businesses. But our main focus was providing basic relief. So, we had trained volunteers to like kind of streamline this like prospective clients to like volunteer case management. And then also just kind of like building relationships with people in the community and like partners that we have with like our chapter and stuff. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So currently we had like a transition period once the pandemic was hitting. So in-person outreach was then kind of postponed for like, the safety of our volunteers, obviously. But however, there are still other opportunities that are outside of MSP that can be shared with members. And, there are ways that we can still do it maybe like on our own outside of MSP. But we're also trying to, foster a sense of community among students. So, trying to build the chapter, build the, outreach that we have to students and just kind of working on recruitment and kind of getting that all together. And then once we have like a solid foundation there, we can kind of work on creating the community of students. And then, if they're really eager to like go out and advocate for people who are experiencing homelessness, they can kind of go out there and then provide that need. And then also, supporting through service navigation, meetings that are about fundraising, having workshops, like we had a couple workshops, and I know Cecily is going to be also having some more coming up here. I'm fairly certain, right? And so she will be hosting, these workshops about, different topics. We had our info nights that will be similar to those. So all these are different ways that we're trying to kind of work around this outreach. So we're kind of building our community here on campus. Then so now we're focusing a lot on this resource project. So basically we are collecting information, collecting contacts around local businesses, local organizations and stuff, and finding resources for just anybody experiencing homelessness that we can find, basically children, families, elders, individuals. We have like women's resources. We have like a whole lot of different, like basically like a whole spreadsheet full of it. And basically we're just trying to find stuff for like basic needs, so shelter, food, water, laundry, showers, things like that that you need on a very regular basis. We're also trying to find mental health resources, legal aid for people who may be having some trouble there, and also just connecting people to like these resources. So trying to advocate for getting these people to these resources somehow, getting their names through the door, getting their feet in there, and so they can actually start kind of getting to a better spot for themselves.
Yeah, definitely. We've been working really hard on the resource project, and Madeline and Lizzie are working on our flyers to hand out to the community. So that's super exciting. And I'm super excited to see what they look like when they're done. Um, so yeah, Lizzie touched a little bit on this question. What happens if you can't meet the club commitment? Like we're not going to kick you out, unless, every Tuesday at 5:30 you're conveniently sick, but it's COVID times and we're in college and life just happens. So just communicate, keep an open line of communication and we will always work something out. Yes. Also, another question that people have, I know but a professor asked me this when I was, asking if I could speak to classes. Is MSP a religious organization? There are Bible quotes on the website. And the answer is no, we are not a religious organization. But this is the quote is referencing. And we do connect people experiencing homelessness to local resources, which could include churches like St. Vinny's and church services. But of course, they don't have to use those services. So basically, the point of this, oh, we have another person in the waiting room. So yeah, basically the point of this quote, it's where MSP got its name from, and it's what we aim to do, start small through volunteers and really aim to make an impact in our community and with those experiencing homelessness. So, not religiously affiliated, but it is a pretty nice quote for what we're doing. Yeah, so this next question, I'll go ahead and drop it in the chat, and I would love to hear from our board members. Yeah, I'll go ahead and put it in the chat. Oops, that was not in the general chat. How has MSP changed your perceptions of those experiencing homelessness, and has it challenged existing stigmas? So I'll go ahead and start. I come from a place, a city where there are a lot of people experiencing homelessness, more so in recent years than ever. I'm from Fremont, California. It's not very well known, but Tesla's headquarters is there. So when that came in, a lot of people lost their jobs and their housing, and along with a lot of other things, but that's not the point. MSP has definitely enhanced my perceptions, I would say. I knew, generally a couple of things, but MSP has really gotten me to be able to think more critically about intersections that can lead to a homeless situation, as well as, different ways we can approach this, and looking for solutions. Do any of the other board members or leadership team want to answer this or have a particular inkling?
Sure, I'll go ahead. So, I came from a spot that, homelessness was never anything that a lot of people talked about, just being from, it was just, culturally how things are in Southern Oregon. It's much more conservative down there. And so kind of coming from this kind of stigma, like, Gabby was talking about in like the question, like having the stigma around, people experiencing homelessness, that being a part of MSP has really kind of like helped me kind of shed that off myself and kind of, focusing a lot more on like, these are individual people who are experiencing problems. Like we all have problems every single day. Some people just have it a little bit worse off than others. And so it just kind of feels good being part of an organization, knowing that, we're striving to help those who are experiencing homelessness and trying to connect them and make them, or not make them, but get them to a spot that, that's better off than where they currently have been or could have been for the past, multiple decades even sometimes. So it just is like a really good feeling, especially like knowing that, these people have, their own lives and personalities and everything. And so it's just kind of nice to really go over and be a part of.
Yeah, thank you for that. I hear you. Does anybody else have anything that they like to say about this?
I can go. So I grew up in a tiny little town surrounded by Oakland. So there's a lot of homelessness around me, but not in my town. A lot of people in my town had pretty rude opinions, I would say, on people experiencing homelessness. So this organization has gotten me out of that bubble, been able to rehumanize these people and learn a bit more about how they could have gotten to their situation.
Thank you, Melissa. Oh. Does anybody else want to go?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Gabby, I come from an area where homelessness is pretty prevalent. For those of you who, so you know where I'm talking about, I'm from the Bay Area. So that's like San Francisco, Fremont, Oakland. I don't know if any of those cities are shouting out to you. I think when I was younger, I used to always be really, really curious about people experiencing homelessness. Like I remember so I used to be in a choir in San Francisco, and so I would be in San Francisco a lot. And so I remember like walking with my grandma or walking with my mom, and I just kind of like looked up at both of them, and I was like, why is it that so many people don't have it? Or why is it that so many people have such a hard time when some people just are living life? And I remember like asking them that question so much, and I never was super content with their answer, because a lot of times, I got like, oh, it was like the deck of cards they were dealt, or like it was just like sometimes I would hear like, oh, people do it to themselves. And I think something that I've learned in MSP is one, that those are all stigmas. That's a really big thing that I just wanted to highlight there. But also that, you know, a lot of times it's just as simple as, you know, someone got laid off and now they can't afford to have a home anymore. You know, they can't afford rent. You know, sometimes it's people get kicked out of their homes because their families are not welcoming of them, you know, so there's so many intricacies when it comes to thinking about homelessness. And I think it's so important that we're able to be empathetic and compassionate about a lot of these just like realities for people, because at the end of the day, we're all people trying to survive, you know? And so I think that is very much what MSP has taught me.
Heck yeah, Geeta. I grew up in the same town as Geeta, so I definitely like hear everything that she's saying. Yeah. Does anybody else have any, you know, thoughts or opinions or questions? Anything goes. Almost anything.
I can go. So kind of my background on like my perceptions of homelessness. I am from San Francisco, and so I lived there my entire life. And then I moved to San Diego for college. So those are like the two major places I lived, and they are like fourth and fifth cities with the largest homeless population in the United States. So like growing up and like going to college, homelessness around me has just been like a thing that is normal. I think seeing that your entire life, it's like anything else that you see your entire life. You're like, yeah, that's just like a thing that is there. And I don't think I really ever gave it a second thought until MSP rolled around, because it was just so like normal. Like step outside, you see someone experiencing homelessness, and that's just reality, unfortunately, in some places. But I think after joining MSP and getting to know people within MSP and the people that we work with, I think it's helped me like be like, no, like that's not normal, or it shouldn't be normal, and that there are things that we can do to help make that not normal for people who are experiencing it. And yeah, I think it's sad reality that we can change. And I hope that through MSP we can help more people not have to think of homelessness as something normal and just as like another part of life, because that's not cool. But yeah.
Definitely. Thank you, Cecily. I think one of the, you know, a lot of important things for me have come out of the short time I've been with MSP. You know, it's only been like since November, but you know, learning just so much more than I ever knew, and you know, having the tools to accurately and confidently like not reject people, that's not the right word, like go against people who have these stigmas and these stereotyped opinions about people experiencing homelessness. So that's been also a very powerful thing for me personally. Does anybody else have anything to say or any questions? If not, that's okay. I have one ready, but if anybody has any questions, this is your night.
I have a couple.
Yes, thank
you. This is just speaking of personal experience, and I don't know if this question doesn't make sense. I can maybe reword it, but does it ever become too emotionally taxing for you?
Okay, I'm gonna answer this question because I'm a crier. I cry a lot. I'm not afraid to say it. I feel a lot of things. And so, you know, for me, like it does get a little hard, especially like during training. I literally like turned off my video camera. I wiped my tears for a second and then I went back into it. But for me, the like rewarding aspect of it is like, you know, being able to make a difference in your community. And to me, that like trumps, you know, getting emotional. I'll still get emotional, but I'll know it's because I'm passionate about something, and because, you know, if something goes wrong, like it hurts me, but if something goes great, it makes me feel really great. So I feel like something that people don't talk about a lot is how you can use like your emotions to power you forward. So that's what I do, at least. I don't know about anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that, Gabby. To kind of add on to what Gabby was saying, yes, it can 100% get really, really emotional sometimes, especially if you do choose to become a volunteer service navigator. And our VSN team, that's what it stands for. We call our volunteer service navigators VSNs for short. And, you know, sometimes like working with clients and like really seeing their realities on a day-to-day basis can truly just be so tiring. And like from personal experience, I'm not a VSN, but I've done a lot of street outreach with my time in MSP. And you know, sometimes I've seen families on the street and I've seen like babies and like children, and you know, it really reminds me and it humbles me, and you know, it reminds me to be so grateful for every single thing that I have. And I think it's also like kind of going off of what Gabby said, like our emotions can definitely keep us going forward. And so like I remember like the first time I saw a kid on outreach, I was like, man, there is like children do not deserve to be on the streets. Families do not deserve to be on the streets. And I still wholeheartedly believe that. Obviously, no one deserves to be on the street. But then it's like, it's those moments where you see a family and you connect with them through like a conversation. And for me, like I'm all about music. So I know that there was this one baby who I saw, and like I remember she was having a really hard time, and her mom was trying to like calm her down, but she was just really having a hard day. And I remember like walking up and just started to have a conversation with their family, and then I just started like singing to this little girl, and that's kind of what helped her calm down. So it's like these things are really emotional, but you can use that emotion to keep going and to help people kind of just find the beauty in day-to-day experiences. You're so sweet, Gabby. Thank you. But yeah, it's these little things every single day. And it's really something I've learned is like, it's emotional, but it's about connecting with people. And when you connect with people, you can really, really empower them to see life in a whole different way. So I just see like, yes, I'm emotional and I cry, but I'm like, it's also, you know, it keeps us going and it helps us remember the reasons why we're doing this.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for sharing. Does anybody
I kind of want to add on to
like some
what
thoughts on that?
Yeah. Sorry, I think there's a little bit of lag. I apologize for my Wi-Fi. My name is Shane. I just wanted to pop my head in for a little bit, and see what's going on. But I'm from UCSD, and I'm part of the chapter here. And to speak on the emotional side of things, it honestly it can, like you just said, 100% be emotionally taxing. I think if at some point in MSP you don't feel so like some sort of sympathy or emotional like kind of just anything coming up, then you must have some really tough skin, or you got to have like some dissociation issues. You know, either one. But I think that the emotions is kind of a good thing because you're able to take yourself and put them in other people's shoes. And I think that's something that's like really, really important for outreach, for VSN is, I mean, just putting yourself in their position and whoever you're helping, and just recognizing that on any given day it can be any of us, you know. It can be, you know, my roommates, it can be the people I work with. On any given day something could go wrong, and it could even just be me out there, but it's not that. But I think 100%, like if you do MSP or any kind of just like social work, any kind of like homeless work, you are definitely gonna like actually quite normal. It's not like something that you should say it can 100% like help you. You're human, which is a really good sign. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you again for coming out and supporting us. We really appreciate it. And thank you for your comments. Yeah, I definitely think that, you know, you find a way to sort of cope, and, you know, as a team, ideally we would like to be that for each other. You know, if we have a hard day of outreach, you know, we can all hop on a Zoom call, or maybe one day go to like Prince Puckler's and just talk and sort of de-stress. It doesn't have to be about MSP. Um, yeah, definitely. Does anybody else have any like questions or comments or quite literally everything or anything?
Just like adding on to what you just said, I think for me,
All right, I have a question. So mostly for Geeta and Cecily and Shane, because you guys have a little bit more experience in outreach. What is your most memorable experience or memorable individuals that you've come across through MSP?
Yeah. Oh, Shane, go for it.
No, you go, it's all good.
Alrighty. Yeah, I've come across so many individuals. And I don't even know how to answer this question because I feel like if I talk about one, it takes away from all of the other experiences I've had, if I'm being completely honest. But something that I will say to just answer this question, every single experience that I've had with a person has just taught me so much about homelessness. It's taught me so much about myself. It's taught me so much about the world. It's really just helped like me open my eyes to, some of these realities. And it reminds me, again, like I said earlier, why we are fighting for what we're fighting for, And I just think that every single person I've talked to is just so inspiring. And every single person has a story that deserves to be heard, and I really feel like just being the person to listen to their stories and helping them, use their voice. Because a lot of times people who are experiencing homelessness, like they don't get a chance to share their voice because people walk right by them, or they don't get a chance to share their voice because they don't feel like their voice is worthy, and that is very much just because of the world we live in and how we have kind of so socialized people experiencing homelessness. Wow, I can't talk today. That's how we've kind of socialized ourselves and people experiencing homelessness to be, right? And so I think something that I've just really loved, and I don't have one story, but just I really enjoyed hearing people and just being the person who wants to hear people and being the person who tries to care, because at the end of the day, that's what people need, someone to care. And that is what we are doing.
That's the most wholesome thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go for it, Shane.
No, you're all good. Yeah, I got one. I got kind of like, this is probably like my like MSP story, like my like, I don't know, like somewhere it kind of reminds me like why I definitely do it, but it's something that I always like don't like reminding myself is that people on the streets, individuals facing homelessness, people in low income housing, poverty level house, like all of those, it could be again any one of us. And this is a story. I was out doing outreach with sorry, my dog's chill. Sorry. He So I was out doing outreach. At this point, I was an outreach coordinator with UCSD, and I was out with like a group of my volunteers, and we were going to downtown San Diego. And in downtown San Diego, there's Petco Park, which is the baseball park, and then there's next to it a Central Library. And so normally one of our groups would just walk around like the parking lot outside of Petco Park, because there's a lot of individuals out there who are homeless, and up and down it. And so we usually do outreach group kind of by the trolley, which is also another reason why there's a lot of folks there. And so we're walking kind of by the go to like, use the bathroom. And then as we pass by, I kind of like catch someone at the corner of my eye, and he kind of like I don't know why, but he just like stood out to me. And I remember like he was like with a group of people. And so then we had like, pastries and water. So we went up, and so we were just like, hey, like we're here with MSP. We're students at UCSD, we're passing out like bagels and water. So if you want some, they're like, oh yeah, for sure. So, we gave him some like bagels, and then this dude came over, and I realized that I went to high school with him, and I played football with him, and we went to the same church. And that was crazy because I called him by his name. I was like, I said his name, and he just like looked at me and like just kind of like just I don't know. He just like pulled me aside, and he was just like, he's like, dude, how do I know you? And I was like, man, we went to school together. Like, I know your family, man. Like, I know your dad. I know your mom. I know your sister. Like what happened, man? And he was just like, look, bro, like whatever you do, just don't call me that name. Please just don't even say that name, because that's not my identity anymore. And I was like, okay, for sure, man. And I was like, look, man, like, do you need help? Like, what, like, how can I help you out? And he's just like, don't worry about it. And it was just crazy seeing him in this situation, and it kind of toned me down a little bit. Like, I remember like standing outside the library waiting for our volunteers and to use the bathroom. And I just like teared up a little bit because like, I mean, this kid was like, I mean, I don't know, I grew up with him, and like he was someone that I'd see every week. And then I remember like I didn't see him for a while, and I didn't really know where he went. I just thought he moved. And and the next time I saw him he was on the streets. So it's just like a gentle reminder to I mean, just students as well, like at OU, UC Riverside, UC, wherever you are, like any college, like this person you could be sitting next to in class could be the same person living in their car, jumping around from motel to motel. Like, they really don't know where they're going to be. So it's just like a gentle reminder that like people hiding in plain sight are oftentimes like people who are experiencing it. But yeah.
If I can really quick, this reminds me of like I had in my very first apartment, like somebody who was like a friend of mine, one of my roommates, literally was like staying with us for like 2 weeks because he was like hopping couches for like probably like 6 months or something like that. And like since joining MSP and understanding like that's like, what was it, like invisible, like an invisible like person experiencing homeless, it's like not, you don't see them at all because they're like couch surfing, but they're still like experiencing homelessness, which is like super crazy to think about. Like you were saying, Shane, just like it could be anybody right now, and they could end up being the person that's like sleeping in their car because they can't afford to pay rent this month or something.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you guys for sharing. I feel like, both of what you guys said really sort of reminds us that, it could be anybody, but it could be you. Health insurance isn't great. So does anybody want to talk a little bit more about that specific question?
I'm sorry, someone's cutting onions in here. Yeah, I just wanted to add, by the way, I'm Allie, by the way, none of y'all know me, but I just know that I have that story with way too many of my own friends. I come from a really rough part of Southern California. And I even have a story with my dad right now. He has mental health problems, and he made some very bad decisions, and yeah, and it's just a reminder that I have the same mental disorders, and that could easily be me. I'm very lucky I'm in college. It just came down to a shit ton of luck is what really happened. And yeah, sorry, someone's cutting onions in here. Yeah, and I know I just met y'all, but a lot of what you guys have been saying really speak to me. And like I said, it could easily be me someday because, but just a lot of luck. And I know a lot of people aren't as lucky. And yeah, sorry, I just made that totally about me right now, and it's not, so.
No, don't be sorry. I think someone's cutting onions in here too. Yeah, definitely. I feel like as somebody who also, struggles with a lot of mental health issues, like I really can relate to what you're saying. And, I think about that a lot, how, I could have been anywhere. Especially because like, I don't know, this isn't too personal. I'm adopted, that's normal. But like I think about that a lot. Like I could have ended up quite literally anywhere. But I ended up here. So, the least we can do is, when we have the capacity to do so, to give back to our communities and, help other people. Um, yeah, and I actually know Allie through the food pantry here on campus. So I know that, Allie is already a rock star and giving back to the community and stuff. So we love it. Does anybody else have, anything they want to say or share or any questions? We're almost at our hour. So
I have a question that Cecily might make fun of me for later, but that's okay. This is just a question that I like to ask every single person I talk to when it comes to talking about homelessness. So I want to probe your brains for a second, and this is open to literally anyone. What are your thoughts on the differences between homelessness and houselessness? And the floor is completely open.
Can you define both?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I guess like that's the question is really getting at defining both homelessness and houselessness. And in my experiences, and just this is just a question that I like to talk about a lot because I think it's really, really important. So when we think about the idea of a home, what do we think about? We think about safety. We think about, potentially family, potentially friends. We think about like, I don't know, anything that makes us comfortable, right? But when we think about, social networks, exactly, support, you all have great answers. But what do we think when we think about a house? A roof. Yeah, thank you, Spencer. Exactly. That was so great. When you think about house, like the term house, we really just think about the structure. And so I guess just to kind of answer my question, I guess, how I think about homelessness versus houselessness is when it comes to houselessness, you're really talking about just not having that roof, not having that shelter, right? When we talk about homelessness, that also encompasses all of these things we were just talking about. That encompasses families, that encompasses just social support systems, anything that makes us feel comfortable. So I really want us to think about that a lot, especially when we go on outreach trips, because, addiction is really important, especially when working with people experiencing homelessness. Like a tent to someone might not be a home, but that might be a home to someone else, but not be a home to one person, but it is for another. Like a rock, for example, that might have no significance to someone, but that's what makes someone else feel comfortable, and that might be their definition of home. And so, I just think that just making that differentiation is so, so crucial, which is why it's one of my favorite questions to ask people. Just because, I don't know, the diction that we all use is, to me, really, really crucial, because we don't want to be people who disrespect anyone. We don't want to take away from anyone's experiences. The point of what we're doing is really trying to support people where they are and really trying to help them kind of grow on their own terms. And so, that is my little spiel. The reason why I said Cecily might make fun of me is because I literally talk about this all the time. Like whenever anyone thinks about Geetha and MSP, they're like, oh, homelessness versus houselessness, period. Because it's all I talk about.
spreadsheets.
And my spreadsheets, yes, exactly. But yes, so I like to share that with people.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. I feel like that is something very important that, I don't think about a whole lot, but when you say it, I'm like, yeah, I should be thinking about that a little bit more. So does anybody else have anything they want to say or any questions? If not, I believe Spencer wants to end with a fun question. If that's cool with everybody. All right, take it away.
All right, I know I've asked this one to our board before, but I just really like this question, and because there's like more people here, I'd love to hear some extra answers to this. So, if you were a kitchen appliance, what kitchen appliance would you be?
You have to start.
So, if I am starting for myself, I definitely I feel like right now I'm a blender being in school. I take a lot of information and I just blend it all up and then try to work with it my own. But in the end, I'm striving to be a refrigerator, just holding all the information for everybody in the world, holding what everybody needs. You're tired at the end of the day. Where do you go first? You go to the fridge. You know, that's what I want to be for people.
Can that be an inspirational quote? Like you're a blender, but be a refrigerator.
I could totally sell posters.
Oh, I guess I could go since I'm speaking now. I think I would like to be a cookie jar. Like holding good things for people to have. I don't know. That's what I would desire to be.
Cecily says air fryer in the chat.
Cecily, why an air fryer?
She says air fryer in the chat.
Why not an air fryer? What can't an air fryer do?
Valid. Completely valid.
That is my.
Okay, I guess I can go since I'm talking. What would I be? I would like to be a cup because it can hold things and it can hold literally anything. That can be water to help people not get dehydrated. It can be knowledge, it can be wisdom. I don't know, I really tried to make it work. It's just not making it over just quite, but that's my answer.
I love that. I love that everybody is about like holding all these things. I love it. Oh, Lizzie says you are everyone's cup, Geetha. How sweet. No, Geetha's gonna cry. If I were an appliance, I would be my garlic press because you take something great and just make it better. You just get all the good things out of that already good thing and then, you know, put it on your food or whatever.
All right, does anybody else have any answers?
Maddie said she would be a tofu press because she's vegan.
Love that. Also love tofu.
I don't know, that's a good question. I don't want to freak anyone out, but I'd say I'd be a knife. Simply because knives are very like versatile. If my roommates can't open something up, I just like take a knife to it and just, you know, package, plastic, whatever. Yeah. Cut the capitalism away. And they're just very sharp. I can times. So yeah, don't want to like, you know, think I'm a total crazy person. I don't know, but I mean, I'm crazy, but not like that kind of crazy.
I love that answer. My first thought when you said knife, I was like, the power this woman has. All right. Does anybody else want to share their appliance?
I would say I'm a mini fridge because I'm short.
We love it. I survived off my mini fridge freshman year.
Same.
All right. Does anybody else have any thoughts? Coffee maker. Love that. Love coffee.
Oh, Caitlin already said something.
Making girl off mute.
All right. Well, if nobody else has any other questions or comments or anything, we can go ahead and end here.